This is the fourth of our studies, and it's called The Greatest Love Song Ever Written. It comes from the book that we call The Song of Songs. And I should start by saying this is a bit longer study than the other studies, but we felt that it would be good to keep it all as one long study because the flow of the book of The Song of Songs goes from courtship through to great maturity in marriage, and we thought that it would be best just to tell one long story. Built into the way that God's designed human beings to be, there's this natural and beautiful attraction between a male and a female. This attraction includes the way that the other looks. It could be the shape of their body or the shape of their face. It can be their intellect, their personality, possibly their sense of humour. It could be something about the way that they smell, the way that they taste. The book of the Song of Songs looks very intimately at these things, and it celebrates this attraction that God has given to us.
The book of Song of Songs is poetry, and it's not the first time in the Bible we find poetry connected to marriage. In fact, we find it way back in Genesis 2, when the woman is first created and presented to Adam, and the response that Adam makes there can sometimes the sense of the Hebrew may not actually come through very clearly, but he breaks out into ecstatic poetry. And when he sees Eve, to give a bit more of the sense of what he's actually meaning there, he says something like, "Freak me out, man, what is this amazing creature?" When he sees the woman before him that God's presented. Adam gives a big thumbs up to God's handiwork. And really, the Song of Songs is really an elaboration of that same poem that starts there in Genesis.
The Song of Songs is verbalized praise. The man and the woman are not speaking abstractly about their love. They are speaking to one another. And they are expressing the content of that communion that they have. They were made from one, and they have come together as one. As the scripture says, "Therefore shall a man leave his mother and father and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh." Jesus adds, "So they are no longer two, but one." And it is the expression of this intimacy that the Song of Songs is articulating.
There is a freedom and openness, a beautiful delight in each other's company. Genesis chapter 2 tells us that the man and the woman were naked and they were unashamed. There's a statement in one of the old marriage services that speaks of the husband speaking to his wife saying, "With my body I worship thee." Worship essentially means to honour. The thing is, it's with his body that he honours his wife. He doesn't do it in a non-physical way. Romans 12 speaks about us to offer our bodies as living sacrifices, for this is the spiritual act of worship to the Father. What we do with our bodies.
The attraction between a man and a woman has been the subject of countless songs. People love to express their emotions by writing love songs. Some of those songs are sweet and beautiful, others are coarse and lustful. The Song of Songs expresses beautifully the relationship between a man and a woman, and it seems to be that it was a Hebrew love poem, a poem that was actually read out and used at weddings to describe the love that would be there between the husband and a wife. For this study, we're actually using the Bible, the Good News Bible translation, just because it's an easy translation. It shows nicely the picture language and it's very accessible. Any biblical study on marriage has to look at the book of the Song of Songs, a book which is not necessarily written about Solomon. Our view is that the Song of Songs is consistent with all of Israel's law as given by God. And so God's view was always
chastity outside of marriage, and that sexual union takes place within marriage. In fact, as the Old Testament describes, fornication, or that sex outside of marriage, is not to occur in Israel. It is sin against God.
Solomon, son of King David and Bathsheba, the wisest and wealthiest king in all of Israel. The title might suggest that the book is written by Solomon. It might be about Solomon, or it might simply be dedicated to Solomon. I think when you look at the context of the book, it's probably not likely that it's actually written by Solomon. The woman in the story is of peasant stock. The man is a farmer. These are two people who exclusively committed to each other. Solomon himself had many hundreds of wives, and many of them sought to lead Solomon away from the Lord.
We take the interpretation that the Song of Songs is actually a series of poems, a series that begins with the courtship between the man and the woman, going on to their wedding, the consummation of that wedding and the intimate love they share, and then going on to the maturity in their marriage. And of course, as all couples, they experience a few problems along the way.
Chapter 1, verses 2 to 4. Your lips cover me with kisses. Your love is better than wine. There is a fragrance about you. The sound of your name recalls it. No woman could keep from loving you. Take me with you, and we'll run away. Be my king, and take me to your room. We will be happy together, drink deep, and lose ourselves in love. No wonder all women love you. This is a story about a woman who is besotted with a man. She's just completely in love with him. She can't imagine that any woman would be other than besotted with this man. She loves him so much. She wants him to be her king, and she wants to be his queen, and so they can be happy forever.
As with all courting couples, times and places are arranged for them to get together, and we read of that in verse 7 in chapter 1. Tell me, my love, where would you lead your flock to graze? Where will they rest from the noonday sun? Why should I need to look for you among the flocks of the other shepherds? So the man reassures and encourages her and confirms the arrangements for their rendezvous. He says, don't you know the place, loveliest of women? Go and follow the flock. Find pasture for your goats near the tents of the shepherds. I married a couple last year with a girl who lived in Adelaide and a guy working on a mine out from Townsville, and he'd get back to Adelaide at the drop of a hat.
Falling in love was a wonderful thing, wasn't it, Graham?
It was. And getting together and actually going out on an outing or a date was very important for us. But our relationship started differently in that we had a long-distance telephone relationship. We got together through an ACC conference and then got to know each other over the phone. Mm. And the first time we spoke for over an hour, and I can't remember ever speaking to anyone on the phone for more than an hour. And the relationship developed from there. So when we actually finally got together to go on a date, on an outing, was very, very exciting.
It was exciting. It was a wonderful day.
It was. And but by that stage, we'd actually got over all of that stuff that a lot of people go through. Where do we go? What do we do? What do we wear?
We were very comfortable with each other, weren't we?
And it was just a matter of cementing the relationship by that stage. And we went to Clare on our first date. The very first drive we went on was to the middle of the bush, and I wondered if Robin was going to leave me behind. But no, that was very special. And it was actually, we went back to that very first place. That was where I asked you to marry me. And so outings, dates are very important.
A lot of happy memories there in all of that, isn't there?
There is. Yeah.
So the couple are courting, and we hear how the man feels about the woman. Clearly, the attraction is mutual, and the man says there how he can see no reason why all men shouldn't be equally attracted to her beauty as he is. And there's a a kind of pleasurable, restful contentment that the couple have in each other's presence, and a sense of the promise of so much more to come. So they're full of admiration for each other, have eyes only for each other. They give free expression to that. The man says, "How beautiful you are, my love. How your eyes shine with love." And the woman responds, "How handsome you are, my dearest. How you delight me." Beautiful.
I look forward to being married because you get to be with someone for the rest of your life, and if anything happens, someone will be with you.
It's like a feeling of security.
Well, because you feel really safe, because you're like, it's permanent, so you don't have to fear rejection or anything, and you can just be happy with yourself and everything.
I think it's going to be good because it would be like living with your best friend, and they're just always there for you.
Yeah, and you know that they love you and they won't leave you.
He brought me to his banqueting hall and raised the banner of love over me. Restore my strength with raisins and refresh me with apples. I am weak from passion. Promise me, women of Jerusalem, that you will not interrupt our love. The interpretation of that phrase, "you will not interrupt our love," is from the Good News translation of the Bible. If we were to take the literal translation of that, it would mean, don't stir up love until it's ready. The Good News version in some ways indicates stopping something that's already happening. But what the literal translation is saying is, don't awaken something or don't stir up something that hasn't yet happened. It has implications for our sexual relationship before marriage. It's a sense saying, don't stir up this sexual relationship before you're really ready to actually serve one another in love in this covenant affirming relationship after marriage. It's a way of saying that I will be showing restraint to you out of love and respect for you, so that when the right time comes, we may fully engage in something which is beautiful within marriage.
It's kind of like this peer pressure around sex, almost like you're expected to be having it before marriage, early on in a relationship.
On top of that, it's just kind of everywhere in the news and society. I mean, songs, everything, it's everywhere.
It's pushed on you at school when you do sex ed for 3 years, so you can't really escape that either.
I think society thinks it's a bit strange that you would wait until after you're married to have sex. I don't think they really understand that we have a different viewpoint to them.
And marriage is the right time for it.
In the second song of the Song of Songs, we hear about the great anticipation that the man and woman have as they look forward to their marriage. It's also a time where they deal with things that might impede their relationship. There are always things that need to be dealt with, but these things are dealt with in a great excitement. They're looking forward to being married. Listen to what the woman says. "I hear my lover's voice. He comes running over the mountains, racing across the hills to me. My lover is like a gazelle, like a young stag. There he stands beside the wall. He looks in through the window and glances through the lattice." He's obviously pretty keen to get to her. And as they get together, he comments on the fact that she's still shy. She's a bit reluctant to show all of herself. And he says to her, "You are like a dove that hides in the crevice of a rock. Let me see your lovely face and hear your enchanting voice."
Then another issue intrudes. Catch the foxes, the little foxes, before they ruin our vineyard in bloom. The little foxes are those things that creep into our relationship, annoyances, or when one or other does something thoughtlessly, selfishly. And so a resentment festers, and they are the foxes. The vineyard is the relationship. And so they need to be caught, those foxes, before they fester and become something that ruins the vineyard in its bloom.
I suppose it's human nature to think about the things that could go wrong, and the bride here starts to think about things that might go wrong in her relationship with this man, and it reaches a point where she actually dreams about the things that might go wrong. Chapter 3, verses 1 to 3. Asleep on my bed, night after night, I dreamed of the one I love. I was looking for him but couldn't find him. I went wandering through the city, through its streets and alleys. I looked for the one I love. I looked but I couldn't find him. The watchmen patrolling the city saw me. I asked them, "Have you found my lover?" Many brides have dreams leading up to their wedding day of things going wrong. They dream that they turn up to the church in their pyjamas, or sleep in that morning and arrive late, or they forget their vows, or things go wrong, or turn up to the wrong church. But fortunately for this woman, her dream has a happy ending. Chapter 3, verse 4. As soon as I left them, I found him. I held him and wouldn't let him go until I took him to my mother's house, to the room where I was born. So in her dream she finds her man, and she's so glad to see him, she takes him back to a safe place where they are restrained in their love, but loving nevertheless. Promise me, women of Jerusalem, swear by the swift deer and the gazelles that you will not interrupt our love. This actually means not to stir up love until it's ready. And it would be very easy for them in that moment of passion, after she's had this fright, to take things further than they intended with their passion. But they restrain themselves knowing that the wedding is coming. And so they wait until that time before they fulfill their relationship.
This is the third song where the marriage ceremony takes place and the couple consummate their union. Great imagery of the bridegroom being presented as a regal king. All the guards are present there around the king, the bridegroom's attendants. The bride is wanting all the maidens and everybody to look at this great king that is coming. And when they come to each other, the king looks at his bride and he sees, "This is my one and only queen." And the bride looks at the groom saying, "This is my one and only king." We might say, is this King Solomon that we're speaking about? We need to remember that it is the peasant and the shepherd who are celebrating their love in this day. And so in some ways we're actually seeing this as picture language of the wonder of a husband and wife coming together in very regal language, that in many ways every wedding is a royal celebration. Many of us have seen royal weddings, most recently William and Kate, and everybody was really fixed to their screens seeing this. But in some ways it is a presentation of what every marriage is like. In the Orthodox faith, the bride and groom have crowns placed on their heads, in some ways saying, these people are kings and queens for a day.
His bride stands before him and he looks at her and says, "How beautiful you are, my love. How your eyes shine with love behind your veil." His eyes begin at the top of her head and then he moves down. "Your hair dances like a flock of goats bounding down the hills of Gilead. Your teeth are as white as sheep. They have just been shorn and washed. Not one of them is missing. They are all perfectly matched." So this is not the type of comparison that we ourselves might make, but he is, after all, a shepherd boy, and these are the types of things that make his day. Her lips are what attracts him next, not necessarily just for the kissing, but also the words that pass by her lips. He says, "Your lips are like scarlet ribbon. How lovely they are when you speak. Your cheeks glow from behind your veil."
I remember our wedding day as the happiest day of my life. We were so looking forward to it. Every sort of last detail had been planned. It was beautifully set up. And it was such a proud moment coming down the aisle with my dad and everybody smiling at us. And Scott at the end smiling away. Couldn't stop smiling all day. And just feeling really special, having, this really pretty dress on and having the flowers, just that sense of joy in the air. It was just a really, really lovely day. And the service had all the little special bits that we'd planned. Friends from far and wide were there, and it was just really, really happy.
I just remember feeling really responsible. You know, all of a sudden we were quite young, and just being really, you know, kid stuff. Time was over. You know, we were growing up. But it was a really nice day. We had a beautiful weather, which for the middle of winter was a bit unusual in the Adelaide Hills, but it was a gorgeous sunny day, and it was lovely.
And we smiled so much that our cheeks hurt, muscles in our cheeks hurt at the end of the day, because you don't normally smile that much in one day. And so much laughter, and every person that we had organised, from the photographer to the lady that ran the reception venue, they all were... they all had so much joy and happiness, and you were the special person there. Scott and I were the royalty, the special people, and it was just lovely to have that.
The day was about us, wasn't it?
Yes. Yep.
The groom continues to look at his beautiful bride, and she has something of a necklace on, probably that which is adorned with the coins that are part of her dowry. And he looks at her and says, "Your neck is like the Tower of David, round and smooth, with a necklace like 1,000 shields hung around it." He continues to stare at her and look down and says, "Your breasts are like gazelles, twin deer feeding among the lilies." And then he stops. He's completely in awe of her beauty and her presence, and he says, "I will stay on the hill of myrrh, the hill of incense, until the morning breezes blow and the darkness disappears. How beautiful you are, my love. How perfect you are."
My sweetheart, my bride, is a secret garden, a walled garden, a private spring. This could be a way of saying that she is a virgin, and that she has kept her walled garden just for him. And so he senses its delights, and he is able to explore them as she opens that garden to him. This is not simply a sexual thing, but it is the whole of personality, the whole of knowing and being known, of sharing one's garden with just one person.
As our wedding vows say, "I take you, all that I am, I give to you." A beautiful and full and open invitation to enjoy the beauty of the garden and the sweet joys of love. In this relationship, there's no shame in the naked beauty of marriage, where they're free to actually enjoy one another and discover one another, enjoy the fresh new delights of one another.
The woman speaks. "Wake up, north wind, south wind, blow on my garden. Fill the air with fragrance. Let my lover come to his garden and eat the best of its fruits." This is a wonderful and beautiful and tender invitation by the woman to come and enjoy her garden. And we can see this in the context of the honeymoon, as these two come and give themselves to each other. And the man gladly takes up that invitation and says, "I have entered my garden, my sweetheart, my bride. I am gathering my spices and myrrh. I am eating my honey and honeycomb. I am drinking my wine and milk."
Then we hear about the actual sexual union, the consummation, where the couple are made one flesh in a relationship of marriage. And in the Song of Songs, it's spoken of very delicately and purely, and it's beautiful and deeply satisfying. And we even hear the encouragement to them come from those outside, their friends, still reveling at the marriage feast, and they say, "Eat, lovers, and drink until you are drunk with love."
Robin, sex in marriage is a good thing, and it's very important. To have a healthy marriage, sex is a vital part, or should be a vital part of that marriage. And sex is, in a healthy marriage is more than just two people getting together. There's a level of intimacy, I think, that it's two people joining together. It's a spiritual thing. It's a soulful thing.
It's unique.
It is, yeah, and it's that therefore is healthy, as I said.
Very good.
Sex within marriage is a very important part, and I look at it as like a package, that you have sex and you have companionship and friendship, and it is not just one thing, it's the whole lot all in one within God. That's his, when he joins us together, that's all part and parcel of our married life.
Once a couple get married, they quickly discover that it's not just like the fairy tales where everyone lives happily ever after and they never have any problems. In fact, I think when you get married, you learn a lot about yourself, about the ways in which you're selfish and grumpy and difficult. And in marriage, you have the opportunity to confront those things about yourself and actually change those things. So you grow as a person and you become a better person than you may have been as a single person if you'd been allowed to continue in all those selfish traits.
The fourth song opens with another of the woman's dreams, but this time the dream is much worse. She says, "While I slept, my heart was awake. I dreamed my lover knocked at the door." The man speaks, "Let me come in, my darling, my sweetheart, my dove. My head is wet with dew and my hair is damp from the mist." This time it seems that he hasn't been leaping on the mountains, he's been trudging through the swamp. And maybe he had been down at the pub and coming home late or something. The woman immediately thinks of her own comforts and convenience and says, "Well, I've already undressed. Why should I get dressed again? I've washed my feet. Why should I get them dirty again? Why should she put herself out for him? He's perhaps dirty and damp, hardly attractive. But there's no denying that the old chemistry is still there as he tries to open the door. My lover put his hand to the door, and I was thrilled that he was near. I was ready to let him come in. As she remembers how much she loves him, she gets up and goes to open the door.
I guess I'd like to say I've never been selfish, but I mean, that would be a lie. I think particularly for me, because of my husband's work, I mean, he's away a lot, and then especially like when we have special times, sometimes they're not so special because he gets called away. And yeah, there are times where I have felt, oh, you know, this is too bad. I mean, I think, oh, you know, he promised he'd be here and he's not here. And yeah, I've prepared. I mean, I guess I'm like that lady in Song of Songs. You know, I've prepared and it's special and I'm thinking, oh, he's going to be here. And then, you know, he'll call and he'll say, no, that's not going to happen. Sorry, there's an emergency. I might not even see you tonight. And then when he comes, you know, I might just feel like, yeah, I want to punish him. But then, you know, I realize that by doing that, I'm actually making it a whole lot worse because, you know, it's not really that he intended to not be there. He needed to be away. And it's just a matter of me thinking, okay, I have to get over this selfishness. But yeah, sometimes it really kicks in a fair bit.
Yeah, it is very very difficult, and it's two ways. And just to build on that example, you know, you feel, oh, but I'm out there doing a really important job, and I'm not being, you know, and that just makes things worse. We just building onto it and making things worse, and that's now my own selfishness coming in and magnifying, and it just from there we on the slippery slope, and it takes a lot of repair from there. Yeah.
I think that's one of the times you can have a really good fight. But anyway.
This is where the dream turns into a nightmare. She says, I opened the door for my lover, but he'd already gone. Suddenly a deep fear comes into her. She is alone. He's turned away. She says, "How I wanted to hear his voice. I looked for him, but I couldn't find him. I called to him, but heard no answer." Now she's missing him badly. She asks the watchmen if they have seen him, but this time they beat her up.
She has to ask other women, "Will you help me find him?" And we've all been there, haven't we, where we've had that selfish, sinful moment, and we just realise we've messed things up, and we need to somehow try and bring resolution to the situation in whatever we can, where we say, "Oh, you idiot, why didn't I just love in the first place?" And the women are there and they're saying, "Well, why should we help you? What's so special about this one?" And it causes her to realise just what is special about him, and she realises just what is at stake and what she will lose. She really should have killed that fox when she could.
Usually, I guess, we can go for a while and you're sort of trying to get over your selfishness and try and make it up. But it's interesting because when you try and make things up, the other person's pride is probably the highest at that time. And so sometimes you can get an escalation when you're hoping to de-escalate it. And so you probably have to wait. And that's the hardest part, I think, is just waiting for the other person to forgive you. But when we do that, and then we can talk through the conflict, and I can say, look, I really felt let down. I felt, that I wasn't as important as your work. And then maybe he's able to say, well, it's not that my work's important, it's just it's life-saving. And so because this was how we got married, it was the basis of how we got married, I suppose, we resolve conflict that way. And I think we've grown a lot. It's been very, very full on with his work, and a lot of times I've had to just understand it, and as well, because of praying, you sort of understand that you're loving other people as well. You're loving the people he's taking care of, and that makes it much easier to bear some of those situations.
And our communications really improve from that. We're able to actually look at the issues and talk about them, and we're able to go to bed and pray about it, and pride. That pride is just really, really tough. It's hard to swallow it, and as I said before, just stand back, move away from the pride, and actually look at the issues and be honest with with your feelings, and that's not so easy to do.
In my relationship with Graham, I'm sometimes grumpy and sometimes a bit selfish, and on those times he forgives me when I do the wrong thing, when I'm grumpy to him or selfish, and it makes me appreciate his nature all the more when he is so gracious to me. And that's also true of God, that when I become aware of my own sinfulness, which is fairly large, and I think about how much God has forgiven me for, it just overwhelms me with gratitude and love for him, because he has forgiven me so much.
So this brings us to the beginning of the fifth song. It's about maturity and strength as the marriage grows. So following the wedding, the man is increasingly impressed by the woman's beauty, and he's drawn back to her time and time again. He comes to the realization that she's no wimp or doormat. And in fact, he says to her, "My love, you are as beautiful as Tirzah, as lovely as the city of Jerusalem, as breathtaking as these great cities." The city of Tirzah was a magnificent city, a really beautiful, well set out, well laid out city. So he's really comparing her to a magnificent city when he says this. We know as big cities are a place of dynamism, strength and magnificence. So he's comparing her to a woman in her proper glory. He can't stop looking at her, and he's just captivated by her. He can't help but reverting to what attracted to him in the early stages.
The bridegroom's been going on and on about many things, describing how lovely his wife is, and remarkably, he still comes up with new images to express how, in his eyes, how she's an exclusive beauty above all others. And we read there, "Let the king have 60 queens, 80 concubines, young women without number. But I love only one, and she is as lovely as a dove. She is her mother's only daughter, her mother's favourite child. All women look to her and praise her. Queens and concubines sing her praises." He won't shut up about her.
I feel that our marriage is secure because on our wedding day we made promises before God.
But it's not only that, it's really comforting to come home and you know your wife will be there, or your husband, and it's really freeing actually, because there's no fear in a relationship that we have, and it's a beautiful thing actually, because there's so much mess in the world and our communities, and I'm just so thankful to God that He's the one that holds our marriage together, and it isn't based upon our feelings, because if our marriage is based upon our feelings, there'd be no marriage left. But it's based upon the promises of God and Him holding us together. And it's only the fact that we're fully forgiven that we can actually forgive each other and get along. There's no doubting each other or, worrying, is she going to be there? Is she running off? Because actually, she's my wife and I'm her husband, and God holds us together. And there's a joy and a peace that comes with that. And we take it for granted sometimes, but yeah. I'm just really doing this talk now is actually making me more aware of the fact that it's a beautiful thing how God made marriage and how He holds it together, and that's really freeing.
There are times when he looks at his wife, even though they've been married for some time, and he's struck with the beauty. He sees something new and wonderful in her, because the way God's designed marriage, when a husband or a wife need to look to the right, to the left, but just look to the one that God has given them, then their relationship grows in beauty and in strength. And as someone once said, the sugar is in the bottom of the cup. Like when you have a cup of coffee with sugar in it, the sweetest bit is at the end. Well, this husband and wife, they grow in love for each other, and they see new things that they delight in. He says, "How pretty you are, how beautiful, how complete the delights of your love. You are as graceful as a palm tree, and your breasts are clusters of dates. I will climb the palm tree and pick its fruit. To me, your breasts are like bunches of grapes, your breath like the fragrance of apples, and your mouth like the finest wine."
There were respectful restraints between the couple before they were married, but now they have come to the point of marriage, they fully belong to each other. There's no longer any inhibited feeling. They're fully, totally open in sharing with each other, giving themselves to each other. The traditional marriage service said, "With my body, I worship you." And so we read the woman says there, "Then let the wine flow straight to my lover, flowing over his lips and teeth. I belong to my lover, and he desires me."
The couple, in their enjoyment of marriage, love to go away and spend time together. They go on holidays and enjoy new things and have times where they celebrate their love together. She says, "Come, darling, let's go out to the countryside and spend the night in the villages. We'll get up early and look at the vines and see whether they've started to grow, whether the blossoms are opening and the pomegranate trees are in bloom. There I will give you my love."
This is the beginning of the 6th song, where we see the invincible, secure union of the man and the woman, and of their desire that others should know this also. Close your heart to every love but mine. Hold no one in your arms but me. Love is as powerful as death. Passion is as strong as death itself. It bursts into flame and burns like a raging fire. Water cannot put it out, No flood can drown it. But if anyone tried to buy love with his wealth, contempt is all he would get. The depth and the strength of their relationship has been that it is, to use the definition of marriage, the union of one man and one woman to the exclusion of all others and voluntarily entered into. Here, these two people are free in that security and that love and protection of one another to explore each other, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and health, to love and to cherish until death parts them. This is the wonder of the gift they make to each other. And it's perhaps good for people who are approaching marriage to understand the gift they are about to make.
The interesting thing is that others see this love and they want it. Every human heart wants that love that just gets better and better with the years and just grows beautifully. There is a young sister in the song, and they say, how can we get this for her? And we want the same for our children. We don't want them sleeping around and have all the guilt and the shame that comes with that. We want them to experience, a love that grows and gets better and better, a love that spills out from themselves to others, that comes from a good marriage, it comes from the love of God. We see it in relationships that last for 50 years. There's something beautiful about those relationships, and we want to experience something like that.
The woman's brothers speak now. We have a sister, and her breasts are still small. What will we do for her when a young man comes courting? If she is a wall, we will build her a silver tower. But if she is a gate, we will protect her with panels of cedar. The scene is spreading around the married couple to the broader family. And here we see that marriage is not simply a mutual admiration and benefit society for two people to the exclusion of all others. Marriage is a community of service that benefits those around it. It spreads its tent over others. In the Old Testament, Israel was exhorted by God to have an open table for the sojourner, the traveller, and others in need. For Father of the fatherless and the defender of widows is the Holy Lord in his habitation.
The woman by this time is very happy and content in the relationship. It's been going for a long time, and she's pleased with how the relationship is. As she says in chapter 8, verse 10, my lover knows that with him I find contentment and peace. The man is also very happy in the relationship, and he feels like a king. He's content. They're happy together. They build each other up.
Solomon has a vineyard in a place called Baal Hamon. There are farmers who rent it from him. Each one pays 1,000 silver coins. Solomon is welcome to his 1,000 coins, and the farmers to 200 as their share. I have a vineyard of my own. There's riches here. This is in the final exchange, and the couple are recalling all that they have enjoyed and shared from before the wedding to the wedding itself, and since then, now that they are fully united. And the man calls, let me hear your voice from the garden, my love. My companions are waiting to hear you speak. And she replies, come to me, my lover, like a gazelle, like a young stag on the mountains where spices grow.
That brings us to the end of our study on the Song of Songs. It's a beautiful book about the intimate love between a husband and a wife. And in a way, it explains what is said in the preface to one of the marriage services. It says this: marriage is a gift from God for the well-being of mankind and for the proper expression of natural instincts and affections with which he has endowed us.